Here I'm going to show you how to calculate the future value of a series of annuities that earn interest in Excel. So the basic setup for this is, say I have, or I'm investing $100, or I'm just putting $100 into my bank account. So I put 100 in every single month or every single year, and that bank account pays me 5%. So I want to know how much money my bank account will have after so many years. In this example, I'm going to figure how much it's going to have after 4 years. So basically, I want to figure out the future value. Now, all that an annuity is an equal amount of money or cash that is deposited or received for any given period. So an example of an annuity would be you get $100 a month for 10 years. That's an annuity. Now here I've calculated this by hand. So I've got 4 years, I have the interest percentage, I have the amount of money that I'm going to be depositing every year. So that's the annuity amount being $100, and the total amount after 4 years. So total amount after 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. Now it's very important to note that when you're calculating the future value and annuities, or any type of investments, you need to know when you're going to be paid or when you're going to be putting money into something. Is it the beginning of the year or the end of the year? Now, oftentimes when you're given a problem like this, even if it doesn't seem like it makes sense to you, oftentimes it's going to be that you deposit the money or the annuity begins at the end of year 1. As well, you'll see later the default setting for the Excel function we're going to be using also assumes that. So it's important to remember that the assumption is going to be that you're depositing the money at the end of year 1 unless otherwise stated. So that's why the total amount at the end of year 1 says not applicable, but really it would just be $100. Now the amount of money that you're going to have after year 2 is $205. It's important to know how this is calculated. It's going to be 5% of $100, right? So this total amount at the end of year 1 is going to be the beginning amount for year 2. So 5% times 100 is $5. So you have $105. But don't forget that you deposit $100 at the end of year 2. So it's 105 plus 100 is $205. It's exactly how this works right here. Simply 5% times $205 plus the annuity payment at the end of year 3, 100, equals $315.25. And simply the formulas for all of this look like that. So if you want to make this table on your own, just pause it right here and you can check out all of these formulas. However, they are not too terribly complicated. So let's go ahead and check it out and do this with a formula in Excel. Right over here, I have made visible the future value formula. So we're going to be using the future value to calculate the value of the annuities. And the syntax is listed right here. All we need is a rate, number of periods, payment, and present value, as well as type if you'd like. So let's go ahead and do this right here. Equals FV, open parentheses. The first thing we need is the rate. So simply select the cell with 5% right here, the interest. The next thing is the number of periods, so comma, 4. And then the payment amount, so comma, our payment amount is going to be the $100 because that is the annuity that we pay into the account every year. Now, if we had a certain amount of money already in the bank account before we started depositing our money, say we already had $1,500, our present value would be $1,500. But we don't have anything in there, so we're going to leave that blank. However, so you could just put a 0 there. The next thing is type. Now it's important to note that type is going to say, or it's going to determine whether or not the formula calculates that you deposit your annuities at the end of each period or at the beginning of each period. Now by default, if you leave it out, it's going to assume that you deposit money at the end of each period. And oftentimes when you deal with these problems, that's what it will be. So by default, it's going to assume that. If, however, you want to make sure it calculates this formula with depositing the money at the beginning of the period, type a 1. So your option is to leave it out, type a 0, or type a 1. 1 simply says deposit at the beginning of the period, 0, deposit at the end of the period. So close parentheses. In this case, you see that we do not need these last two values, but I'll leave them in there for now. And when you're done, simply hit enter. Note that by default, we're going to get a negative value. Now, when you do this with your financial calculators, you may remember that you need to put a negative sign in front of some of the values, or in front of the present value. And that will solve that there. Here, however, the easiest way to solve that is simply put the negative sign in front of the FV. Hit enter, and you get a positive number. Now, really quick, I just want to show you what would happen if our type was changed to 1. So we deposit the money at the beginning of every period instead of the end. You can see that there is a relatively dramatic increase in the amount of money that you make. 431 goes to 452. So, either way, this is how you can calculate the future value of an annuity with an interest rate in Microsoft Excel.